This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
3 minutes after 10 is the time. A very good morning to you. It was early yesterday morning, shortly before coming on air, that we received news of another apparent stabbing of a teenager in London. Something about the details rendered this tragedy even more upsetting than others. I don't mean to set up any sort of hierarchy, but the fact that it was a schoolgirl in her school uniform on her way to school, and tributes to her have come in. The details, such as they are, involve a 17-year-old boy being questioned by detectives. It's believed he was known to the victim. But it is, once again, and it's a very long time since we've done this. I don't know whether I should apologise for that, but I balk at these stories because I just find them so heartbreaking, and not just because I've got children of a similar age, but because they are heartbreaking tragedies. The question I'd like to ask you about today is about normal, the two types of normal in this country or in big cities. The teenagers for whom knives are quite normal, are very normal, are completely normal. Carrying a knife is normal. And then the rest of us for whom it remains profoundly abnormal. And I don't know how to build a bridge between those two universes. I don't really like what politicians do with knife crime. I don't know, to be honest with you, what politicians can do with knife crime. The idea that the Home Secretary or the Mayor of London, who conveniently represent different political parties, could somehow stem the flow of blades into the hands of young, almost exclusively men, is to me a little bit fanciful. I don't know that the notion of a sort of tension between a politician and a knife-carrying teenager is helpful. It seems to me fairly obvious that the way that you tackle the problem of teenagers carrying knives, it involves sort of wraparound youth support. It involves communities being supported, helped, funded to provide teenagers with completely different paths to follow. And that starts at primary school. The idea that now you have X number of teenagers carrying knives and you can fix that problem by clamping down harder or banning certain types of knife just seems to me to be ridiculous. And I do worry sometimes that the politicians are too busy trying to blame it on each other. I heard the top of the bulletin there. Labour have said the Tories must do more to get a handle on knife crime. And someone, no doubt, has already blamed yesterday's killing on Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. And they're as bad or as good as each other, really, aren't they? I don't know what an individual politician is supposed to do in these circumstances, but I do know that it involves education and nurture. Just raising, as a society, teenagers in a context, in an ecosystem, in an environment where they won't feel that it is normal to pick up a knife. Normal. That's the question. That's the word that I keep hitting upon. And I'm not going to go completely meta on you, I promise. But radio phone-ins aren't very helpful either, historically, in this area, right? Because, it's very easy to get a long queue of people who have very little or no personal experience whatsoever of the issue, but are completely convinced that they've got all the answers. I'll tell you a moment. And one of the strange things about presenting a radio program that has I quadrupled or quintupled in popularity in the years that I've been doing it, is that I always think that you were there at the beginning. So I always think, we've done this so often, you've heard it all before. But of course you probably haven't, because you weren't there at the beginning. And there were days, not a million years ago, when it used to feel as if we were doing subjects like this almost every single day. Here's an example. I'm not putting you in Idiot's Corner, but it's, dear James, it starts and ends with the parents. Regards, Simon. It just doesn't, mate. Teenagers don't do what their parents say. It is absolutely ridiculous to think that that such a complicated question would admit such a glib and simplistic answer. And I'll tell you why, Simon, because I'm not putting you in idiot's corner yet. When we first started talking about this and trying to talk about knife crime, knife carrying, in an informative and illuminating way, and also, of course, steering well clear of the implicit dog whistle invitations to forms of racism that always accompany these sort of conversations, or often accompany these sort of conversations. The single most important lesson that I learned was this. I started carrying a knife because I was scared of other people who carried knives. And that, for me, was like a clouds parting moment, or a penny drop instance, because I had never thought of it like that before. I had always, because for me it is not normal, I had always seen it as an act of aggression undertaken by an aggressive person. Here is a teenager who wants to rob and harm other teenagers, therefore he leaves home with a knife. But I took calls from you, and this, perhaps more than any other subject, is a subject where experience is absolutely invaluable. I took calls from you, and you told me that you started carrying a knife because you were frightened of being robbed on your way home from school, or you had to walk through a part of town where a gang of youths that you'd been at primary school with, but due to the vicissitudes of postcodes were now your sworn enemies, were going to do you harm or seek to do you harm. And I just want you to stop and think about that for a minute. So however old you are, however wizened you are, just think back to when you walked home from school. Okay? Or even if you were at a school like mine, when you walked from your boarding house to your first lesson of the day. Okay? And now imagine that someone who really doesn't like you is going to stop you on that walk and they have a knife. Right? Just imagine that. You can't disarm that kid by blaming his parents. You can't disarm that kid by I don't know, having more robust policing. You are walking to school on Thursday morning. It is anything from a 5 to a 20-minute journey, and you are fairly confident that on that walk you will encounter someone who bears you ill will and probably will have a knife. Now, whether they just want to frighten you into handing over your phone or your wallet or your purse, or whether they actually want to hurt you for grievances undisclosed, what are you going to do? And that's the point at which you realize how discomforting and complicated this question is. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to write a very furious column for the Daily Mail. Yeah, right, great. What are you going to do if you know that round that corner, quite likely, stands a teenage boy with a knife and a problem with you? Or simply just designs upon your smartphone? And as soon as you get your head around that, I think you realise why almost every conversation that you hear or that we have is pointless in this field. I'm told one Conservative politician has tried to claim that it's because of you, Les, that this happened. I'm afraid I'm going to need a bit more evidence that someone actually in politics has claimed that the Mayor of London has been too busy introducing you, Les, to prevent a teenage boy carrying a weapon, apparently. But I mean, actually, do you believe that? Probably believe. I probably can believe it. But remember, the first line of the news bulletin on LBC today is Labour have called upon the government. What does that even mean? I don't know. So 13 minutes after 10 is the time. You've also got, of course, lest anyone think I'm turning into some sort of rose-tinted character, that you've also got the kid who's carrying the knife that you're scared of, and the reason why he's picked up the knife in the first place. Did he do it out of fear and then become almost the problem himself, become an aggressive actor as opposed to a defensive actor? Because that for me is the crucial distinction. So these are the parallel universes that occasionally, of course they occasionally intersect. Of course they do. But most of us only know about teenage knife carrying because of the news. Most of us only know about it because of days like today and tragedies like yesterday. Some of us know about it because you're living it. And it's you that I really want to talk to first today. What I really want someone to do, what I want you to do, is explain the normality of it. 0345 60 973. So it might be you or it might be a loved one. Why did you start carrying a knife? Why did you do it? And how do we denormalize it? I would imagine that the answer to that question is an uncomfortable one. It would involve epic amounts of investment and funding. No doubt it would be written off as woke. Why are we spending money on... But what are the alternatives? Hit everybody over the head? Dangle them by their ankles from the nearest motorway bridge and see what falls out? Wow, it sounds like the 1970s and 80s. So it's the normality of it that I want you to talk to me about, because I'm a tourist in this world. I'm not a resident. I'm not even really a reporter. I just sit here feeling really, really sad about what has become normal for decades for teenagers in my town. 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. It's 10:15.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
18 minutes after 10 is the time, and 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. Let's start with Naz in Solihull on this question of it being normal to carry knives and the two worlds that coexist in this country, one where it's normal and one where it's utterly alien. Naz, what can you tell us?
Oh, good morning,
Hello.
James. I hope you're well. So, do I think it's normal? I mean, it's not normal. It's never okay to carry a knife. But one thing I have learned is that I do believe a lot of kids go out carrying knives to protect themselves. I feel like they're in a situation where they've literally got no one to turn to. I know a lot of people are quick to say, what are the parents doing? Well, I think you can have wonderful parents with a really naughty child and vice versa.
Not even a really naughty child. I never quite understand this idea of parents being omniscient and omnipotent and having full knowledge of everything their children are doing and full power and means of controlling what their children are doing. The only people who can think like that are people who've never been or met a teenager.
Exactly. And, teenagers are so good at masking.
Yes.
They know, they
And they might not want to frighten, they might not want to cause their parents concern. It doesn't have to be a sinister thing, keeping stuff secret. It could be, in their own minds, they're protecting their parents.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, it's one of these situations where we are in this time where a lot of kids they've got nothing going on for them. Okay, they go to school, they come home. We blame the government, they've cut funding. Yes, we know all of that. But there are some situations where, they come up with ideas. Okay, we're going to build this for the kids, we're going to build that. And then you get the local residents complaining, oh, no, we're really glad you're building it, but we don't want it on our doorstep. We don't want those people coming around here.
One has to be careful what one says. You don't want to get lynched by your own neighbours. But community groups are fascinating, aren't they? We really need something for the young people around here. I've seen one of these recently, and then they say, oh, well, look, we're going to do it in that building. Oh, you can't do it there. That's too near my house. I don't want them all hanging around outside. What's your story? You're a mum, are you, Naz?
Well, yeah, I mean, the story yesterday morning really, really hit a nerve. One is I'm a Londoner, born and bred Londoner.
Yes, I thought so.
Devastates me whenever I hear about a young person being stabbed, especially on the way to school. I left London a couple of years ago because we thought, you know what, we just want to try and get away from all that chaos. We've got two kids, an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and my son has just started secondary school.
Right.
And he gets the bus in every morning, which is a new thing for me, my kid having a little bit of independence.
Yes.
So I thought, oh my God, this girl's taken the bus to school and this has happened.
There it is. And so when you say you wanted to get away from all the chaos, because you were not confident that you would be able to shield your children from some of the risks and dangers that we routinely hear about.
Yes, I just wanted my kids to have a bit of a childhood without having to worry about there being so many cars on the road, they can't cross the road safely. They can't ride their bikes to school. I mean, where I live is
you're not working for the Solihull Tourist Board, are you now, at this point?
No. Well, this is what I wanted to say. So my kid goes to a really good school. He gets a bus into Birmingham, goes to a really good school. First week, he comes home and he tells me, Mum, an older boy got pulled off the bus and he got arrested by the police and put in handcuffs and put in a police car.
Gosh.
And the first thing I said to him was, do you know what? Doesn't matter what school you go to, it can be the best state school, the poshest independent school. Kids of that age are going to be exposed to the same issues. You can't, cover them in cotton wool and protect them.
No, but you can, I guess, have some influence over the scale of it, over the amount of it, over, the fact that for your lad on that journey, that will be a rare and remarkable moment. But for other lads on other journeys in other parts of the country, it would not. Thank you, Naz. It's 22 minutes after 10. How do you explain the normality of it? And Naz correctly sort of picked up on that word, but I'm obviously not suggesting that it should be normal or that it is a more commonplace perhaps than normal. How do you explain to somebody for whom it is completely alien why knife carrying is so commonplace? Like, for example, I don't know whether you take an average classroom full of children of say 15, 16 years of age, and if you go to certain parts of town, would every child in that classroom have a knife secreted somewhere, or would it still be a small minority, or a large minority, or a majority? And if it's not everybody, then what is happening differently in the lives of the children not carrying the knives compared to the lives of the children carrying the knives? Matthew is in Stockwell. Matthew, what would you like to say?
So me and my wife and my son are going through a little bit of an episode at the moment in regards to my son.
I'm sorry.
So, it's awful. So he started hanging around with a group of lads locally, and in no amount of time my son realised that, these are not the guys to hang around with. No, because my son thinks he's a road man, but he's not.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Like, he dresses like one,
sure.
but he's a good kid.
Maybe they all are to start with, and they get into the, as you say, the idea that they're tough, and then some of them one day wake up and they are what they wanted to be, and others like your lad.
They fall into it.
Yeah.
So what's happened was he stopped hanging around with them, and then there's been a few issues. So my son makes music, that's his thing, and these lads have started making music and posting songs like diss tracks about my son, and threatening that they're going to stab him and this, that and the other. So my son always shows me the music that he makes, and he was like, oh, look, this is good. Like, we're honest. He's open and honest. He's like, this is what's happening. And I was like, oh, that's pretty rough. I was like, but I keep going, mate, just pay no attention to him. I was like, and I just say to him, whatever you do, don't carry a knife. Don't carry a knife because you're worried that they've got a knife. I check his pockets. When he comes home and he doesn't see, I'm looking in his stuff to make sure that he's not doing that. And luckily enough, he's not doing that. But
as far as you know, he's not doing that.
Exactly.
And
he could be stashing one somewhere else.
Well, he could be. And I mean, how difficult as a dad is that to think that there might be someone threatening my boy with a knife? Everything gets worse if they've both got one, I guess.
James, do you know what?
Go on.
Every time he leaves the house, I say, I love you, mate, see you later. Yeah. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, please come on.
Oh, Matthew. Of course you are.
And my son's like, I'm not going to retaliate, but he says it makes me look like I'm weak because they're saying stuff about me and I'm not doing anything about it. I said, no, that makes you a better man. He was like, that don't wash with people my age.
It's 10-1, isn't it? There's 10 lads giving him jip for doing what is right and what is actually brave, and him probably struggling to persuade himself that he's on the right side of this because of all the influences around him, and also, it's horrible, isn't it? Just the stress of it, the stress of it. Not I mean, for you as well, but for him that hypervigilance and that fear about what's round every corner. It's very hard to imagine how constant it must be when he's out and about.
Like when I grew up, it was bad enough.
Sure.
But now it's a pressure cooker, just ready to go bang. And that's just my son. How many other kids are feeling that as well? And then that will lead them to do something stupid through no fault of their own. They feel like they have to be in that situation to look after themselves, and then what happens? You ruin the rest of your life over something stupid.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the best case scenario, isn't it? That you've got the rest of your life to ruin. How on it do you have to be, do you think, as a dad? I mean, you sound as if you're very, very hands-on, and that you've got a great relationship with your boy. That will be partly down to luck and partly down to judgment and effort. You know,
I think it's more like I try and understand.
Yes.
I don't try and view, well, this isn't how it was when I grew up, because like my life and his life totally different. Like the landscape has changed so much.
And so you're on it constantly. Like you say, every time he leaves the house, you're thinking, and
I've got a really, really good relationship with his peer group. So we speak, because if my son's not saying something, I'll just say, "Oh, sorry, mate, blah blah blah." I won't say their name. I was like, "What's going on with that?" And he'll go, "Oh yeah, such and such and such and such."
That's nice.
And maybe I'll get a bit of information that my son hasn't given me.
Yeah.
And I won't use it against my son, but I'm like, okay, that's another thing that I now know.
Well, knowledge is power. That's what you're telling me.
Sure.
And you're lucky, actually, in that sense, to have the skills and to have the character and the personality that allows you to interact with his peer group in the way that you do. But I can hear the fear in your voice. I can hear the knowledge that you can do everything in your power, and it may still not be enough. I guess the hardest conversation is the one where you tell your son why he shouldn't be carrying a knife out of protection, why he shouldn't arm himself because he fears other armed people. And I cannot express how much respect I've got for you for addressing that issue, for climbing that mountain. I just thank God I've never had to. And there it is, there, but for the grace of God goes every father. Thank you, mate, and good luck. 28 minutes after 10 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. The normalness is a better word than normality, I think. Normalness, I don't even know if normalness is a word, but that somehow conveys what I'm trying to say more than normality, because normality makes it sound like something that is just there and it is immovable and immutable and there's nothing you can do about it. The normalness of it is a different feel in the mouth. It sounds as if you're sort of saying, how can it be normal? How can it be normal? And what I need you to do is explain to people for whom it's not normal what it feels like when it is. And Paul already texting to say he sounds like a great parent. I mean, there it is. But there will be great parents whose children have got knives. I felt that's what he conveyed best, is that you can do everything within your power. But the ultimate point of contact with your own child is when you have to persuade them not to carry a knife, despite the fact that they are fearful of other people who do. And you don't have to have the story. You don't have to have the interaction and the music side of it. It could just be fear of crime, fear of being robbed, fear of being mugged. It's coming up to 10:30. The reason I'm going to the news is partly because it's time for the news. I can't squeeze in quick calls on this. So I'm going to talk to Merlin after the news and then hopefully to you as well. But this isn't a kind of 5 to 10 second quick chat conversation, is it? I think, as Matthew just proved. Lottie Morley's here now with your headlines.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
10:33 is the time. The normalness of knife carrying. A guide, a user's guide, if you would, for those of us for whom, thankfully, it has never been normal. Merlin is in Wimbledon. Merlin, what would you like to say?
Hi there, man. First of all, respect and thank you for all the compassion you're showing at the moment, and respect to the last guy as well, because anyone that thinks this is kind of a simple issue is clearly misguided. This is an issue where I'll tell you from my perspective growing up. Yeah. Obviously, the location name are different or whatever, but sure. Basically, yeah. So I started carrying when I was about 13, 14, and this wasn't even like, I come from a very good family in regards to not like wealth and stuff, sure. But my parents are very well educated. My dad was a lieutenant in the military for a very long time. So, yeah, well educated, got to a point where I'm getting on the bus, or I've got to go to the gym at like 10, or I've got rugby practice or wherever. Yeah. I'm coming back. I'll give you an example from one specific time. I'm coming back through like the public footpath, whatever, into the park. Yes. And this random kid just comes out of there. He's eyeing me up for no reason whatsoever, walks past me, and then stops, because I heard him literally stop walking. And I was like, all right, cool, let me turn around, what's going on type thing. Took an earphone out, had one in anyway. And he's just looking at me. And then man just draws a knife. I was like, bro, I haven't done anything, whatever. I've got my knife. I draw it, nothing happens. Just kept eyeing me up for a bit and then walked off. But there have been situations where I've been on the bus late at night or whatever, people try and pull something on you, you're walking home, they run round an alley. There have been times, like, I don't want to incriminate myself or anything, but there's been one or two occasions where I've had to use it in self-defense. And let me tell you something, I have the utmost respect for the public safety. I have the utmost respect for people who are not involved. I have the utmost respect for people who are just trying to go about their daily life, you know. But I think people need to understand it's less of, I mean, there's the gang aspect to it and all the facets that come with it. But people need to understand that it is also just a security concern. And we're not going to get rid of this concern unless we take a combined arms approach to this. We can't just do youth centres. We can't just do, you know, what I was suggesting on the phone to the lovely lady, boxing and MMA gyms and stuff like this. These are all important. It's important to get kids in.
There's no magic bullet. What did you hear in the last call when you've got a dad there? So your dad had no idea you carried a knife, right?
At first he didn't, right. And then later on he was like, I'd rather you go to jail than die, you know?
Man alive.
And that's kind of I understand what he was saying, the previous guy, about the pressure cooker situation. That's exactly what it is. Because it's the paranoia, it's the worry, it's on both sides, the parents and the kids, or whatever age. Because
it's hypervigilance. Yeah. It's so bad for you. It's a permanently adrenalised state of existence. Yeah. When you're out and about, you're in fight or flight mode. It's supposed to be for a split second, but it becomes an almost permanent state of existence. So what did you hear then in the last call? So you've got a dad there adamant that he doesn't want his boy, despite the fact that his boy is being threatened by people who probably are carrying knives. What do you hear in that dad's story? I
hear a similar situation, basically, but it's difficult because it depends on...
You feel you had no choice, don't you?
I feel I had no choice. Right. And then the second I got the choice, which is around first, second year of uni, where it'd been like a year or two of me going, man, we're not in London anymore. We're not... Like, this isn't daily life anymore. Okay. And eventually your friends are going to you, bro, why are you carrying a knife on campus? Like, who's going to rob you? Who's going to do something? Who's going to whatever? And after a year or two of just like, oh, he didn't do nothing. Oh, he didn't do nothing. Oh, I'm actually kind of safe here. And also, like, I feel like, and this is difficult because of all of the negative stuff going on with the police lately. But if the police had a positive image, they would be dealing with this so much easier than they are right now. Because even at university, when I think some guy got caught walking with one like drawn out, some point there in the middle of campus, and armed response came within minutes. You know, and that's a disproportionate response in the sense of like, you know, it's one guy with like a kitchen knife versus 10 guys with G36Cs or something. But the point is, there's so many sides to this, but the most important thing is just security and paranoia. And
this is the knot that can't be unravelled, isn't it? Because you know, no one can. I'm intrigued by your dad's attitude as well, which was kind of a recognition, rightly or wrongly, his recognition that you are safer by being part of the problem.
Well, this is the thing. He never saw it as. I mean, he had a very strong conversation with me where he was like, I do not want to hear anything about you having pulled that out in person, done this, done that. And not even like on you. You can keep it in your backpack or something in like a compartment where, you know, it's not that easy to get to. You'll get to it if you genuinely need to. And, you know, that wasn't like an easy decision for him to make. It wasn't like, oh yeah, my son can carry a knife. I mean, he's not from here, and obviously he's served in the military of the place he's from. Right. So he's used to combat. He's used to that sort of stuff. But he wouldn't want to impose that on his kid.
But it's the normalness. It's the normalness of your existence that he's accommodating in his attitude to you, despite presumably a large part of him being completely freaked out by it. But what do you do?
Exactly, yeah. Well, this is what I mean. It's the lesser of two evils. It's not black and white. It's just different tones of grey. And
yes.
I
think of the kid, the first time that kid pulled a knife on you and you just had a sort of Mexican standoff. I wonder what his story is. His story might be the same as yours, but in the telling of your story, he becomes the storybook villain. He becomes the two-dimensional wrong 'un. But his story might be the same as yours, albeit that then he progressed or accelerated to being, he was probably clearly was thinking of robbing you. So he's gone over a new frontier. He's crossed a new Rubicon. The first Rubicon is carrying, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the second Rubicon is self-defense, and the third Rubicon is proactive crime. I can see the path. You never got to the third one.
No, of course not. Well, I mean, this is the thing with that kind of situation. It is power. As a child or an adolescent or wherever, when you are given that sort of power in a country where we have tried to, and this is a good thing, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, where we have tried to move away from weapons in the same way that America has pushed it forward to their people, we have a similar issue here where they have a gun epidemic, we have a knife epidemic, but the problem is the same in regards to who's using or how it's used. The only difference is that guns just accelerate the process. Yes. But we carry on down this line, I guarantee you that's the next step, because paranoia knows no limits. When we are constantly arming up as people in working class backgrounds or whatever, having to protect ourselves this way, do you not think eventually it's going to get to a point where someone goes, well, that guy's got he's got like a machete now. That's not going to be enough. I need a Beretta. I need a Glock. I need something. And it's going to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Well, so that's a question of access as much as anything else. But I guess what you're describing is just a basic arms race. So I want a bigger.
It's literally just a civil arms race,
isn't it? And the one thing we haven't got here, thankfully, is a significant political lobby defending everybody's right to carry knives. So there are nuances and complexions to the comparison, but it's solid when it comes to the concept and exercise of power and the relationship between power and fear. An awful lot of admiration coming in for you, Merlin. Because of the clarity with which you tell your story, and of course the honesty with which you acknowledge your role in the problem. And the thing is, I don't have the answer. Merlin doesn't have the full answer, but it's not going to be a simple answer. And you can't fix the problem until you know what the problem is. And there, in a nutshell, is the problem with tabloid journalism. I don't care what the problem is. I just want to shout their Tim Pot two-dimensional solution from the rooftops. What is the actual problem? The problem is that people who don't want to carry knives carry knives. Come at it from that angle, the whole story looks different. Thank you, mate. James is in Scarborough. James, what would you like to say?
Morning, James. I was a teenager that carried a knife. I got stuck once in my arm. Luckily, nowhere else. My brother carried a knife. He stuck someone in the stomach. And the direct result of that, he got caught, and in the morning he was due in court, took his own life. Oh, God. So it's, but now I'm a youth worker, and I work and I talk to young people about these issues. And when I was a kid, we had nothing. There was nothing there was no dreams. But I had my name. People were scared of me walking down the street, and I thought that was respect. Right. And this is what I say to young people: there's a big difference between fear and respect. And
yes, of course,
you learn. Other people then want your name, and it's just a cycle. And when people then start threatening me and my brother, then we carried knives in return, and round the cycle goes. But it was youth workers with me that, for the first time, we spoke previously about ADHD. I've got ADHD.
I remember, yes.
And demonised for every single education system that I was in. And then, I'm an intelligent guy at Electric University now as well. But the education system demonised me. But I went in the youth club, and youth workers saw me as intelligent. They saw me as having talent
and potential.
And in that environment, I thrived and reached my potential. And austerity gives people no dreams, no hope. and people want a name. We're told we should be important. Every individual should be important, aren't we? In the capitalist system, we're meant to try and climb to the top. But when you've got nothing and no means of getting there, you have to find other ways of. It ends up being bravado, and that difference between fear and respect is massive.
It is. So what do you say? What do you say to the teenager who is frightened of the latest version of you? So there is someone in their neighbourhood.
Well, I can talk to them with honesty.
Yeah.
And that's important.
But I'm going to carry a knife because I'm frightened of him. What? How do you tell me not to? When
youth clubs, see, those young people would be in the same building together, so often talking.
Okay.
In every community, they'd be there. You break down the enigma. It's a person, not an enemy. Okay. And I think it's no surprise that knife crime has rocketed since we've lost all those community groups, and youth work as a profession has vanished. You know, we used to have a youth club almost in every borough. And there'd be scraps and falling outs and all the rest of it. But you would not have this. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a kind of splintering, isn't it? It's every people are strangers because there's no communal hub. There's no interaction, and I hadn't thought of it like that. So when you just said because you'd know each other, it changes the dynamic of fear and power. Absolutely, and not only that, those kids that don't have a place to go to youth clubs, so they're off the street for a couple of hours. Just that alone makes a massive difference. Somewhere safe to be. And the kids that are demonised in education are cared for and given the same amount of respect as every other young person within there. We farm dreams. We give them, we start doing music and creative things with them and give them a different dream so they can earn a name for themselves in a different way. So that mixture of austerity with no hopes, no dreams, no prospects, and the eradication of things like youth work is just creating this melting pot of people trying to get a name for themselves in that different way, and then that cycle continues and continues. I think that's incredibly well put, and bleak though it is, the exacerbation of that scenario by politicians just trying to blame it on each other according to what party they belong to is actually outrageous, isn't it, really? Yeah. Take care, mate. You're doing important work, and you really are. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to listen to you and learn from your experiences. Thank you, James. It's 10:47.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
10:51 is the time. Understandably, very, very warm words coming into the studio for the callers that we've had already. Scott picks up on something quite a few of you feel resonating. The guy you've just had on said words that really hit me, James. We didn't have any dreams, we just had our name. The kids haven't got dreams, and that's where we need to start. We need to inspire them. And that was James up in Scarborough describing his own childhood and, of course, the childhood of his brother, which ended in the most tragic of circumstances. And that's it, isn't it? That's the point of the conversation that we have together. It's not pretending that there are simple answers or that there are explanations based on ethnicity or geography or anything like that. It's about opportunity. And that idea of having no dreams is another example of two parallel universes. Children live in one and they have no aspirations or dreams or ambitions. They don't feel that there's anything worth reaching for. And then children in the same postcode, possibly even on the same street, live in a universe where, because their circumstances are different and their influences are different, they do. And you sit there and say, I blame the parents. You're abandoning the children in the first cohort forever. You're agreeing with them that they've got no hope, they've got nowhere to go. I have a friend who works as a therapist, and the hardest thing to deal with is the child who just thinks they're going to follow their dad to prison, for example. Just thinks that is their path, and to persuade them that there is more is really, really hard to do. 10:53 is the time. Anne is in Leighton. Anne, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Thanks for taking my call.
Very welcome.
I've worked in with this subject for many, many years. I was in the police, and then I've worked with young offenders for over 20 years. moving over to a games team, dealing with all the county lines issues. So tell me if I go off track, because I've got so much to say on this matter, and we've done so many projects. We first, initially, just like to say that it's absolutely true that young people are scared, and that is why they carry a knife. But most of the time, it's taken off them and used against them.
Right. Yeah.
We've had young people that go to that have been to grammar school that have ended up either killing someone or it's been used against them. So it's not always. There are issues with some families, and as you've rightly just previously said about criminality in families, that's a very difficult subject to tackle when they've grown up thinking that this is normal. And
so they might be. That mean that they'll be dealing with their own trauma in different ways, but that might be the child of whom the other child is frightened. So that then escalates, and now you've got 2 children, 4 children, 10 children all carrying knives.
Absolutely, and we don't live in a society where young people are searched at school, or they're searched when they come to our office. And we've had situations where there's been 2 people from different gangs that have turned up. We can only do so much assessment to find out, and then it's all kicked off, and they've both got knives in their bags.
Yeah.
But we run a lot of workshops in schools where we've delivered knife crime sessions to a year group through the whole school, and we've used young people that have experienced losing people to talk to them, which is really been really valuable.
Does it? It works, does it? You watch it work.
Yeah, I mean, when they listen to a young person that's actually been through that and they've lost friends or family through that, then it does work. I was listening to Nick Ferrari, and there was a worker that worked at the Benkinsella Trust, which I've done some work as well. But it all comes down to research and what works. And I know in that Benkinsella there is a setting which I know through experience that it has been said that that does not work. Putting young people in prison cells to see where they would end up, research suggests that does not work. That doesn't work.
Okay.
But we've done a lot of work with parents to try and understand the language that these young people and gang members are using, so they can understand what they're talking about.
What would you say to the? Because if I combine all the calls I've taken today, in a way, they lead to you. Because what do you say to the young person who correctly fears someone else who is armed? How do you persuade them that they shouldn't be?
What do you think is going to happen if you get into a fight? What are you going to do if you get into a fight? They say, "I won't use it." You are going to use it. You're going to use it, or someone's going to use it against you.
But Merlin's dad would say that I'd rather you were going to prison than I was going to your funeral.
But that's not probably going to happen. Probably you're going to end up dead because they'll use it against you. What benefit is that? Or you'll get into a fight and you're going to use it. So there's 2 lives that they've lost their life. I think young people think that you get out this knife and flash it around and people are going to run away.
Yeah.
That it doesn't happen, especially if you're dealing with young people that are used to this violence.
It's adrenalised, and you're pushing each other to the next level, aren't you, all the time?
Absolutely.
Can you see pennies drop when you're doing your work? Can you see pennies drop sometimes? Can you see the light come on in a child's eyes where you know you've got through to them?
Well, you sometimes you can. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes you assess a young person and you think that there isn't anything going on, and then the next minute they've killed someone or they're dead, and you think, and then you find out that you can only go on, the family history or what that young person has told you, but listening to, I know that what you're saying, Labour are saying they'll do this and they'll do this, and I'm not a Labour supporter, but there was something quite positive in the Labour representative that said that they will have youth workers in A&Es, and that is the time, James, when young people speak. When they initially get involved in a gang and they get seriously injured, that is the time that they normally speak when they're in A&E. And there was
that's really interesting.
I know there was a project in Royal London, because they deal with major trauma and a lot of knife crime.
Yeah.
There was someone there that is there to speak to them in this straight away.
Okay, that is strong policy making. So I was criticising sort of political point scoring, but obviously strong policy making also would come from politicians. I shall look into that a little bit more, and thank you. It's 11 o'clock already. I'm going to put someone in Idiot's Corner, actually. I know it seems a little flippant for such a serious subject, but you hear opinions like Jason's normally on radio phone-ins about this kind of issue, thankfully not on the ones that I conduct, but here he is. These kids have no respect and don't care about going to prison, as prison is now a luxury, says Jason, who is going to Wormwood Scrubs, I believe, for his next fortnight's holiday. Here's a little story from September of this year, as in this month, Jason. A German court has refused to extradite to the UK a man accused of drug trafficking because of concerns about prison conditions in Britain. In other words, British prisons are now so rank that foreign authorities won't extradite their criminals here, despite wanting to, because of the state of prisons.
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 3 minutes after 11. It's also Thursday, of course, so Mystery Hour on the way at 12. I'm going to have a funny one next, and I'm going to need your help with it, because it's not an obvious line of inquiry or line of conversation. It's a little bit nebulous. There's some fascinating research done into specifically black Brits feeling pride in Britishness. So a study of more than 11,000 black Britons looking at the question of being proud to be British. And the numbers are interesting. It's a 104-page report. But I'm not interested in the for the purposes of this conversation at first. I don't want to confine it just to black people. I'm fascinated by the notion of being proud to be British. So, are you? Obviously, I suppose you have to identify as British in order for this question to resonate. So I apologise to everybody who isn't. But we can insert your nationality. You're proud to be something-ish. French, German, British. What does it? What I really want to do is spend an hour talking about what that means. But I feel I probably need to do a little bit more work before throwing open the phone lines. Maybe I don't actually. Can I do that now? Let's just see if you're ready to ring in already, and you'll spare me an introduction. What does that mean? What does it mean? I'm proud to be British, or I'm proud to be French, or I'm proud to be German. What does it actually mean? What, in other words, are you proud of? I probably will say a few more words, but I'm just waiting to see if you want to come in early on this one. I don't have much. I mean, listen, I can talk about why I'm confused or what I don't understand, but if you can have a go right now, what are you proud of? You say you're proud to be British. What are you proud of? Hit the numbers now. You will get through. 0345 6060 973. Listen, or Scottish or English or whatever it is you prefer, but what does it actually mean? Because I'm not sure that I know. And yet I have, I'm sure, said to you in the past that I am proud to be British. I'm proud to be Irish as well, for what it's worth. But why? What does that even mean? What does it even mean? Proud of the achievements of long dead people born on the same bit of rock? Because if you're proud of the achievements of long dead people, then everyone who, quite in my view, correctly suggests that you... that later generations bear some responsibility for the sins and the crimes of previous generations, most obviously, I suppose, with regards to slavery, you can't really argue with them anymore. If pride in what happened in previous ages is permissible, then so is guilt and shame. And where guilt and shame go, apologies should follow. Do you see what I mean? I don't know what it means. Jenny says, I want to be proud to be British. Right now, I'm ashamed to be. So what does that mean? I guess comparisons kick in at this point, and then you're sort of flirting a little bit with jingoism or xenophobia. I was proud to be British on the Olympic opening ceremony night. I know it's cliched. I know it was an imperfect country. I know there was still lots and lots of terrible things going on, but it was a work of art that moved me in a patriotic fashion, particularly the bits about immigration and the NHS. They were the bits that warmed the cockles of my heart. But I now live in a country that has Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, which, while on the one hand is a shining example of multiculturalism at work, on another, she is appealing to the polar opposite appetites than the ones that were burnished on the night of the Olympic opening ceremony. So what does it mean? We are proud to be British. And it has to be a nationality right there, a nationality. Proud to be Scottish, proud to be Welsh. What does it actually mean? What are we actually proud of when we, somewhat glibly perhaps, use this language? Because I think, and this is what some of the research looks at, I think my relationship with pride in nationality is an ever-shifting picture. You'd be proud of a country that you live in because it is representative of values that you cherish, like tolerance or decent, more than tolerance, welcome, decency, warmth. And the country in 2023 is less of those things than it was, for example, in 2012 or 2010 or even 2015. We've moved, and I think most people agree about this, because some people love it and some people hate it, which means we agree that it's happened. You know, people like Farage in public life. That makes you less proud to be British than you would have been, for example, when his role in public discourse was being played by Nick Griffin or the National Front, and was rightly kept at arm's length. Instead now, it's embraced. I don't know what it means to be proud to be British. But I like the idea of being proud to be British, up to the point, but not including the point, where it empowers me to say, oh, I feel sorry for you because you're not. It's a funny one, isn't it? And I think we will change the rules slightly and dive straight into the phone calls on this one. Sam's in Croydon. What do you reckon, Sam?
All right, James. I just want to say, firstly, I'm a big fan.
Thank you. It's very kind.
So, my parents are Eritrean. They came here from Eritrea. And I was born in London. I'm very, very, very... I love being a Londoner. It's everything that I am. But anytime I leave London, I get odd stares. The fact that people question whether or not I'm British makes me think, okay, well, I'm not going to try to be part of something that people don't really accept me in. Okay, and so when I get asked, like, I don't know, are you British? Like, when I leave the UK, I often tell people I'm a Londoner.
I love this. So it's your nationality. I am Londonish. Londoner.
But yeah, and
what are you proud of then? When you say I am proud to be a Londoner, what are you proud of?
Yeah, I'm not sure you mean proud, but I definitely love being a Londoner. Yeah. It's something that I find so.
Me too, actually, as it goes. Me too.
I'm glad.
Vibrancy. What are we talking about? Though? What is it? Because now we are both flirting with the idea of looking down on other parts of the country, because we're saying, aren't we, implicitly, even perhaps explicitly, it's better here because.
No, yeah, I mean, so everything about London, I love supporting Arsenal, for example. Love going to the pub.
Well, Arsenal might be peculiar to London, but pubs certainly aren't.
Sure. But yeah, no, just everything about it. I love how, I think actually the biggest thing is I love how accepted I am. I can go to any part of London.
Yeah.
And nobody questions whether or not I'm from here.
So your experience is different from mine then, for obvious reasons, and that we feel, and I think with quite a lot of evidence, that London is a shining example of diversity or multiculturalism or whatever you want to call it, and other parts of the country are some way behind.
Yeah.
And that is something to be proud of, although you shouldn't be proud of it because it should be normal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I just want to say a story, actually.
Yeah, go on.
I never really left London when I was growing up, and whenever I did, it would be something very quick. I was going to do something and I'd come back. But I had a first girlfriend, and we ended up. She was from Somerset, so we went to Somerset. And when I went there, it was the first time I would just walk about a very quiet area. Yeah. That's an extremely white area, and I just got stares as if I was some sort of alien.
Really?
And I'd walk into a shop. I remember I was walking to a shop to buy a shirt, and the lady looked up quickly, looked down, and looked up again in shock, and just stared
like a double take, like a comic, a cartoonish double take.
Literally.
And you'd had no idea that could happen in your country, as it were, which is why, in many ways, London feels like your country, while Somerset doesn't.
Yeah, even hearing that, you saying it, it's kind of okay, my country. But there are certain groups where if I say my country, they're like, do you mean my country that you're in, kind of?
Yes, of course there are still.
Yeah.
So well, I mean, inevitably this question is going to prompt different answers dependent on background and heritage, but it shouldn't really, because, born here, that's enough.
Exactly.
Or common feeling, common sense. George Carlin, the comedian, this text reminds me, has an amazing routine about this and talks about how ridiculous it is to be proud of a nation. It's like being proud of being allergic to something or being 5'11". It's a genetic accident. It's not a skill. It's just where you ended up. But actually,
literally,
yeah. But you've gone better because you're describing London as compared to other areas, and you're right. The word's not pride. It's an act of love. I really love this because my life is better here than it would be there. And that line then between just affection and pride becomes quite perforated. Thank you, Sam. I think it was probably a bit of a mistake to gloss over the research that prompts this conversation, because that notion of Britishness being different for people of colour, particularly post-Brexit, the research shows Englishness has become much more strongly tied to whiteness in the wake of Brexit, but Britishness remains distinct from Englishness. And then, of course, we've now got Londonness, which everyone knows is, like I say, I feel like I'm betraying Kidderminster when I talk about being a Londoner. You can be both, can't you? You can be both. You can be mixed heritage, Kidderminster and London, with a bit of Ireland thrown in. Paul's in Telford. Paul, what would you like to say?
Oh, yeah.
Hello,
can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, Paul. What's on your mind?
For me, I'm from a mixed cultural relation, so my partner's Vietnamese.
Right.
And I was never massively, I suppose, not massively kind of patriotic until you speak to someone from who they've grown up in another country. And then for me, when I speak to my wife, her uncle was a police officer, but he could only become a police officer because his father was a police officer and he bought into the police force. And that's not, if you don't know someone who's not a police officer, you can't become one.
So corrupt, but you're proud to live in a country that's not corrupt.
To the point where you're not dictated to what sort of job you have because of what your class is or who you are.
But that's luck, isn't it? Can you be proud of being lucky?
I think we should be proud of the fact that we do have a choice. If you work hard, and you say to your children, if you work hard enough, you've got the option to go and get a job in what you might actually enjoy, whereas some countries, you don't have that option.
No, it works if the comparison is in place. I mean, you could call it luck, you could call it advantage. And the problem with your analysis, potentially, is that a lot of the things that you take pride in are getting worse, not better. So social mobility is down. Which means theoretically we should feel less proud of being British today than we would have done 20 years ago.
Yeah, quite possibly, I agree. I think if you look at, it depends what your comparison is, what your yardstick is, really.
Does. Yes, it does.
If you use Europe, we would be quite far down that list. But I think when you then look at maybe other countries and other people's suffering, you then actually go, I am very fortunate. I am, even if when you compare some of the stuff that we have compared to America, really.
Yeah, but again, fortunate, luck, gratitude. When does it become actual pride?
Yeah, it's how would you kind of split the two, I suppose, really, isn't it? Would be the bigger question.
It is. And yet we never stop to think about it because we just presume we are. Of course I'm proud to be British. How dare you suggest otherwise? What are you actually proud of? Yeah. Well, I'm proud of the fact that we've got a slightly less corrupt police force than Vietnam, or a considerably less corrupt police force than Vietnam, but our faith in the police is diminishing daily at the moment as we find out what's been going on in the darkness, and therefore our pride must diminish as well. And when does it disappear entirely? How bad do things have to get before you think, oh crikey, I wish I was Vietnamese?
It is a case of that. I think when you, in this country, there's a lot of things that we do take for granted, and it's only really when you then go outside, you then take a step back. But likewise, when you go to other countries, you do look at them and go, crikey, yeah. Why can't we do that? And I think it's really where your comparison point is, really, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, and yet pride becomes, the more this conversation goes on, actually pride, but all three of us that have contributed so far, but pride isn't necessarily the right word, even though it's the one that we'd reach for first. Thank you, Paul. Take care. It's 11:17.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
20 minutes after 11 is the time. We should keep forgetting about Woke Watch. It was an incredible... I'm pretty sure yesterday I saw HS2 described as woke. How the hell did that happen? I said to you some time ago, if you found that, can you send it to me? I'd tweet it to @Mr. James OB. I'm pretty sure I saw it. HS2 was described as woke. And I said to you when we started doing Woke Watch that eventually it'll just be used to describe anything they don't like. But I didn't think it would actually go that far. What's a woke train? How can HS2 be woke? But I did, well, I suppose I get a win for that, saying it just be, so eventually sort of, what food don't you like? I don't like kedgeree. Woke kedgeree. What don't you like? I don't really like Spurs. Woke football team. I do like Spurs. I was just thinking of, because the caller said at Arsenal, I just thought to just reach for Spurs. So what's something you don't like? I don't like, I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like rain. Woke weather. We got woke. How can a train be woke? If I find that story, and it is actually true, then we will bring in the sting, the woke sting. We have a woke sting. We have some production to accompany Woke Watch, which is unfortunate, really, because we keep actually forgetting to do it. What does it mean to be proud to be ish? English, British, Londonish, French, German. What does it actually mean? What are we actually proud of when we say we are proud to be of this nation, of a nation? Kirsty's in Luton. Kirsty, what would you like to say?
Morning, James.
Hello.
When I hear proud to be British, immediately I always think about the Facebook page that keeps cropping up on my feed, but not because I post anything from there.
Right.
So, for example, a lady in my Facebook network who is a lady who lives in New York. She's a diplomat's wife.
Yes.
She posted, I think she was feeling particularly proud. I can't say about what, but it's obviously a very proud day for her. And she said, just in case anyone's in any doubt, I'm proud to be British. And she posted a feed from I'm Proud to be British, the Facebook page.
Okay. And what's on it?
You know what's on it. You know what's on it.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea what's on.
Oh, come on, I know you do. But
I promise you I don't. This is taking a surreal turn. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, and when I do,
sometimes I think I'm... Yeah, go on.
I only follow quite a small number of close friends, because Twitter is a very public thing for me, so Facebook is a very private thing, and I don't think anyone's ever put anything from the page that you describe.
Well, you're lucky. Then you're lucky. So I just thought to myself, this is going to be another Where My Poppy with Pride page. And it was basically, unfortunately, I went in. I thought, you silly woman, why did you post that? Because if you were proud to be British, you wouldn't have posted this drivel.
But what did she post? Tell me what she posted.
It was some kind... No, it was an emblem, some kind of emblem of Britishness that she reposted, stating she was proud to be British.
Oh, yeah, so it's like...
Got
it, okay. And then so it veers very quickly into abuse of people who aren't British.
Yeah, there you go. It was all about colour. It was migrants on boats.
Right.
It was, we want none of this. Let's get them... kill the RNLI, all that kind of stuff.
Proud to be British. Okay.
There you go.
That's not what you mean if you say you're proud to be British, and it's not what I mean. But what do we mean?
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be if I was proud to be British, but I'm neither really ashamed to be British, neither proud.
Nor ashamed.
I suppose I'm probably veering on more of the ashamed, and there's probably a load of people screaming woke at me from,
Stop second-guessing everybody. There is a lot going on in this country that we should be ashamed of.
There'll be people screaming woke at Kirsty in Luton, but unfortunately, I'm not proud of this government. I'm not proud of the last.
No, but being proud
years.
To be British goes deeper. It could go back to I don't know, suffrage, universal suffrage, or the abolition of slavery, or
you know what? Yes. Okay, fine. Then I'm proud about the women fighting to get the vote. I'm proud of elements of Britishness.
Yes.
I'm just not proud of our recent history, and I've never been a particularly proud. I count myself more as proud proud to be a Europhile, proud to be a Francophile.
Because that involves actual actions of openness, actions of sharing, whereas the Facebook book you described celebrates the opposite. It celebrates an insularity, it celebrates a xenophobia, a jingoism, it celebrates a narrowing of humanity rather than a widening, rather than an embracing and a broadening. I promise I wasn't kidding. I certainly don't feel I'm missing much, but my Facebook is happily free, mercifully free of anybody attacking RNLI volunteers for having the audacity to rescue people from the sea of the wrong ethnicity or origin. But quite how you could be proud of that is beyond me. Thank you, Kirsty. James is in Wolverhampton. James, what made you pick up the phone?
The anger of this survey. It's a load of rubbish, honestly. Who have they been questioning? And probably mainly young people who've just got up. They haven't gone to work, been smoking weed last night. And to me, Are you
all right?
No, I'm all right. I'm just saying that I'd like to know who they're questioning. Okay, right.
But for this survey, which we're not really talking about, they surveyed 11,000 black Britons and asked them about 16 topics, including Britishness, education, the criminal justice system.
It was black. Okay, black people. Right. But
that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is what we mean, what you mean when you say you're proud to be British.
Right, I am proud to be British. Right.
What do you mean? What do you mean when you say that? What are you proud of?
I'm a British Indian, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't support India as a cricket team. I actually support
so
England.
You passed the Norman Tebbit test then?
No. Look. A lot of my friends are white English. Yeah, but it's been part of the community and doing the stuff that British people do, and maybe occasionally wearing an England football shirt,
But what are you proud of?
Proud of what Britain stands for.
What does it stand for? What does it stand for?
Fairness, equality.
It's one of the most unequal societies in the world.
Yes, but you get that everywhere. You get that.
So why are you proud of it then? You can't say I'm proud of all the fairness when there isn't any.
Look.
I'm looking.
I think James, you sometimes get it wrong. Yeah.
Of course I do, but you can't. You've got to answer the question that I'm asking. What are you proud of?
This is a great country. And if you don't like it, move.
If you don't like it, go and live somewhere else. But you need to put some flesh on the bones of what you're proud of, because if it's fairness and equality that you like, then you'd be even prouder to be Swedish, you see.
No,
you would, because fairness and equality are measurably superior in Scandinavia and most of Northern Europe. So it can't be that.
It probably is, but look, what I regard as being proud of what this country can do, like great events like the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham last year.
They're literally held in a different country every 4 years, mate, so you can't be proud of the fact that we did it, because they've all done it as well.
They were well organised.
So were the Beijing Olympics. So
come on, James, come on.
What do you mean, come on? It's not my fault you can't think of anything that is peculiar to being British.
There's a lot of things. Okay,
Go on then.
My friends drive British cars like Range Rovers. They can easily go out and get a German car. Yeah. Okay. Their reliability isn't brilliant. Yeah.
What are you talking about now? Anyway,
there's a lot of things to be proud of being British.
Range Rovers?
Okay. If you didn't like this country...
No one's saying you don't like this country. We all like this country. It's our home. I do like this country. It's my home, but what am I supposed to be proud of?
But a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff.
Yes, which is why you're struggling to name anything then. And I think Range Rover's owned by an Indian company, isn't it?
Yes, but it's made in this country.
Well, okay. Well, so's my lunch.
James, honestly.
So's my lunch. It doesn't make me proud.
Look,
what are you proud of?
There's a lot of stuff that we've got. A lot of that other countries haven't got.
Go on then. Like what? Like what?
Look.
I'm looking.
The health service, for a start, the health service might be a mess.
There you go. I like that. Right. The health service is.
It might be a mess, but we've got it.
We have.
In America, you have to pay for it.
You do. Okay? You do. Right? I bet there's plenty of other countries where you don't.
Okay, that's fine. Look. The reason why it's a mess is it's been used a lot. It's been used. Honestly,
I'm proud of it as well. Just out of interest, why did you start talking about kids smoking weed when you rang in?
No, I'm just saying, look, some of these surveys, when they criticise my city of Wolverhampton, they pick on...
No one's brought Wolverhampton into it.
Look, listen.
But you're slagging off your own country. You're slagging off the people in your own country that you're supposed to be proud of.
Look, some of them people probably need to be slagged off, Right. There's some good people. There's good people in this country.
Well, there's good people all over the world, and there's bad people all over, which is why the idea of being proud of a specific nation, although we all think we feel it, we find it, and I think you may have accidentally proved this for me, we find it actually very hard to pin down precisely what it is that we are supposed to be proud of, except possibly Range Rovers. Thank you, James. Quick text here from Patrick. Says, James, never go to the phones early again. I completely disagree. It's 11:30. Lottie Morley has your headlines.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
11:34 is the time. We haven't done this for a while, but I think just let me get my ducks in a row.
Woke Watch.
The Sun says Rishi Sunak must bite the bullet and derail woke HS2. Sorry, what? Pardon? How can a railway line be woke? What would be the signs of? So you've got two railway lines, right, running alongside each other. One of them is woke and one of them is not. How do you tell the difference between a woke railway line and a non-woke railway line? Well, the Sun knows, and one day, no doubt, they'll share it with us. So there it is. Now, in a world where woke has become such a meaningless pejorative that you can apply it to anything you don't like, HS2 is woke.
Woke Watch.
Quite a lot of Tories have started doing their own sad versions of Woke Watch, but the other way round. So they're pointing out things that they think you should be getting angry about. I might start demanding royalties or something on that, but the idea that a train can be woke is, well, one for the... It makes you proud to be British, doesn't it? Sarah's in Fulham. What does it mean, pride in nationhood, Sarah?
Right. So basically, I have this particular position where I am British, Italian, and Egyptian.
Fantastic.
And I can actually vote in all three. And I make a huge distinction between being proud of a nation and being proud of its politics.
Yes.
Because politics change every 20 years.
Absolutely.
If you think about
every 4 years.
Yeah, but more or less the trends, put it that way. And especially with Egypt, it couldn't change for a long time,
well,
put it that way.
True. Fair enough.
But, and that's what I feel proud of. So I became British so I could actually vote and get back the country to where it was in 2012 when I first arrived. And that's what I mean. I think that you can be proud of a nation with taking away the fact that the politics don't suit you. Because if that's the case, you'll never be proud.
I know, but I am going to try to pin you down on what you're actually proud of, because quite a few people actually, unsurprising given the programme that they're listening to perhaps, saying I find it very hard to be proud of a country that has taken away my own freedom of movement, for example.
I agree with you. However, I'll put it this way. I think maybe because you were born in Britain or you grew up in Britain, if that makes sense. For me, I came here about 10, 11 years ago. The biggest difference is the opportunities that I got. So I lived in a lot of places, including Egypt, and a lot of places in Europe, including France, Switzerland. And here I found opportunities that I didn't find anywhere else. It might be just London, but...
That's interesting. I think it probably is just London. But what sorts of things do you mean, if you don't mind me asking?
For instance, I work in construction. I'm a woman. In Italy or in Egypt, I would never find a job in construction. Whereas here, nobody bats an eye.
I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact I didn't know that, but I'm proud of the fact that this is a country where we seem to have gone further down the road towards equality in this field than other countries have.
Yeah, I'm proud, and this might sound silly because I actually don't agree necessarily with the veil, but the fact that you can go to a supermarket or a bank and a client-facing person will be wearing a veil is something you'll never find in France or in Italy.
Well, it's against the law,
and
I think, now in France.
I'm proud that they have the choice to do that if they want to.
And yet the website that I forgot, I know Kirsty and Luton told us about, would argue that being proud of being British would involve you objecting to people wearing face veils in customer-facing roles or headscarves.
They're not proud of the country.
No. What are they proud of?
That's how I feel. because I think that's not being British. Being British is listening to TMS in summer and maybe not necessarily understanding cricket, but you're still British.
Well, yeah, and eating scones. But I mean, I get it with you. You're drawing quite clear comparisons with your own lived experience. For the rest of us who haven't really got any experience of living anywhere else in the world and now have less likelihood of living anywhere else in the world as a consequence of the politics of the people who claim that they're patriotic but have actually robbed everyone of basic freedoms that we once took for granted. It's a harder thing to do. But yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you... Sorry, go on.
To fight to vote.
Yes.
Because that's the only ways we can change things. And that's, like my proudest moment of being Egyptian was when I actually could vote in a democratic election, even if I didn't like the result.
No, and that shows what we take for granted, doesn't it, in Western democracies without even realising it. And that probably is something to be proud of, the suffrage, the vote. Thank you, Sarah. That was incredibly helpful for me. 11:39 is the time. Hamish says, I'm proud to be British. Historically, the kinder transport. I see the problem with that. I mean, it was a wonderful thing. Of course it was. But it wasn't quite as wonderful as most of us think. It wasn't a government scheme. All of the children on the kinder transport had to have sponsors here already who would vouch that they would cover the cost, they would pay for it. It was, I suppose, being proud of some of our fellow citizens, but not being proud of the country itself. Nat's in Exeter. Nat, what would you like to say?
Oh, morning, James.
Hello, Nat.
Well, the last lady, I thought was really interesting what she said, because it's superficial for me that you can go into a bank and see somebody wearing a veil.
Yes.
There is a real sort of deep structural racism going on in this country. And the reason I say that as a black woman is having grown up here, I look at my contemporaries, my opportunities haven't been as rich as theirs. And I put that down to skin colour.
Yes.
I really do. But I grew up in a little town called Redditch, so I know you're from that neck of the woods as well.
Kiddie, yeah, I know. Redditch well.
And actually, my mum, she was a magistrate in Kidderminster, so I know about Kiddie.
I never appeared in Kidderminster Magistrates Court, I'm afraid.
That's good.
Maybe on my next tour.
But it was a lovely place to grow up in a lot of respects.
Yes.
And, we were on the doorstep of Stratford-upon-Avon, so there were a lot of our school trips were, Shakespeare related, and it's a beautiful part of the country. But I really know that as the only black children in our school, me and my brother had to really, fight to get even further than the next person.
Yeah.
And what I was saying to a researcher was, I'm conflicted because on the other hand, I absolutely want to love being British. I go abroad and I come back to England and I'm delighted when the plane lands because I can then get a nice cup of tea and, watch some telly that you can't get abroad. And that's yes. saying a lot because I've gone to some lovely countries. So it's a real conflict. I'm ashamed of people like, our current establishment
yes.
in Home Secretary.
Yes.
I think if you are a descendant of immigrants, you have a responsibility to help those who are coming after you. So, I think there's things we're getting really wrong, but
there are things that we have got right. I mean, maybe pride is just a silly word in this context. So what we're really talking about is gratitude and affinity. I'm grateful that I live in a place where X happens because there are places where it doesn't. And here's something I really like that I know I could probably find the same thing somewhere else, but I really like it and it's here. Therefore, I like it here. But it's not pride. Pride, I don't know what is pride really? I mean, it's supposed to be a bad thing, isn't it? Isn't it one of the 7 deadly sins?
Mm-hmm.
Pride.
Exactly. And I think we have to look at what is the history of the UK. It's based on immigration.
Yes.
And it's very rich and beautiful. And I'd be proud if we could celebrate and commemorate that more.
As opposed now to it often feels heading in the opposite direction.
Well, exactly.
To adding to the criticism, and of course, people who think, as a first caller alluded to, people who think that because you're black, you're somehow not British, which is the most disgusting articulation of racism, and sadly is a lot more mainstream now than it was 20 years ago. We've gone backwards. We've gone back to the 70s. Nat, thank you. I should stress that the research that's prompted this conversation, albeit that we're conducting the conversation in a way that doesn't confine it to black Britons, was undertaken by the University of Cambridge, the Voice newspaper, and a consultancy called iCubed. And it looks specifically at the concept of pride in Britishness among black Britons. And the answers are going to be different, aren't they? For fairly obvious reasons that I think our callers have brilliantly articulated. Samaila is in Nelson in Lancashire. Samaila, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome.
I was speaking to a researcher, and I was saying to her that some nations do have quite a sense of pride, and it's usually places like Pakistan and India that have gained their independence, and they have a day that they celebrate, and they have more of a sense of being proud of what their ancestors have achieved and where they've got to. I myself am sorry.
Well, I don't really. I mean, that loads of people here are proud of Shakespeare or proud of Isambard Kingdom, Brunel. But is it pride? Is it pride?
I think in those countries it is. I myself spent a lot of my formative years there, so I spent my teenage years there.
Right.
And as young people do, I would sometimes get picked on as the person that came from Britain, that ruled Pakistan.
Yes.
And I would be very proud, and I'd say, yes, I'm very proud. With my passport, I can travel anywhere in the world, and we have the NHS, and it looks after all the poorly people, and you have to pay here, and our education system is brilliant, and I get free milk at school, and I'd have all these points that made me really proud of being British. But as I've grown older and wiser, I feel that Britain's kind of lost all those things that we used to be proud of, that when we were younger. If you have money, you can get your private healthcare here. You can do the same in Pakistan. If you have money, you can get to a better school in Britain as you can in Pakistan. We've lost the ability of a free movement, as you mentioned before.
Yeah,
so
our passports have become less valuable, less powerful, so less reason to be proud of that passport than there was in 2015.
Yeah, and I myself feel that my granddad, when he came here in the early 60s, had really powerful and large dreams for his children, and he moved from his own country because he thought this was a better place. One of the points that stuck out from the conversations that you've had with the people is social justice. So politicians in those countries would get away with anything, and now here in Britain it's the same situation.
It does feel, I mean, you paint a picture of a country in reverse gear, and all the things that people like you and I would once have been proud of are being eroded. But I don't know what other people on that Facebook page Kirsty mentioned are proud of. What are they proud of? They just seem to be proud of the bile and vitriol that they direct at others, as you allude to, whether it's immigrants or refugees. I wonder if you can be proud of anything in your own country except the way it looks after the most vulnerable. Because then you can bring the NHS into it as well. But I'm proud to be British because this is a country where nobody goes hungry, where nobody sleeps in doorways. You can't say that, but that would make sense, wouldn't it? As pride, I'm proud to be British because this is a country where we look after the people who need looking after. Instead, this is a country where 30p Leenock is Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party with his performative contempt for people who need help. It's quite bizarre, actually. It's gone in all sorts of different directions, this conversation. Thank you, Samaila. It's now 11:46.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
It's 10 to 12 already. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. The suffragettes argument doesn't make sense, James, says Tom in Plymouth. How can we be proud to be British because of the suffragettes when they were fighting against generational injustice forced upon them by Britain? I can be impressed, in awe or emboldened by the suffragettes, but they don't make me proud to be British because they were essentially fighting against Britain. It's an absolutely brilliant point from Tom in Plymouth. It's finding it very hard to be proud of anything, except perhaps the way a country looks after its most vulnerable. And we're not very good at that anymore. So even if you were using that as a measure of pride in Britishness, you'd be less proud of being British today than you were 10 years ago. Even the British passport has become diminished since the abolition of freedom of movement, which these clownish politicians encouraged you to actually celebrate. Speaking of clownish politicians, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's trade deal with India has come under scrutiny from Graham Langtry at Politico London. He's on the line, so I'm probably going to embarrass him. This guy is an absolutely brilliant journalist. When I was researching my new book, I reminded myself of the work that he did on the trade deal with Australia and Boris Johnson's sort of clumsy diminishment of it at the final hour. Even as Liz Truss started marching around doing a lap of honour, she was privately furious with Boris Johnson for reasons that aren't entirely clear, except he was desperate to be liked. He basically rolled onto his back and invited the Australian trade delegation all the way up to the Prime Minister to tickle his tummy. I don't think, Graham Langtry, I've ever read a better sourced example of trade journalism. It was quite incredible. How did you get all these people to talk to you?
Thanks, James. I've just been working on this beat for the past 3 years and have been just slowly plugging away at, talking to all people who are involved in the trade negotiations and business groups and unions and NGOs and anybody that's thinking about the kind of post-Brexit trade agenda that the UK has. And it, with that kind of legwork, it just kind of falls together. Nicely put. Single-handedly restoring my faith in this profession, Graham. And it is to the Indian trade deal, the UK-India trade deal, that you turn your attention this morning. What have you found? Yeah, so I'd heard from multiple people that there was a briefing call recently that the Trade Department did with people on the call, everybody from like NGOs to unions to businesses. And the British government was kind of presenting a couple of the chapters of the deal and the text to them. And these were the labor and environment chapters. And what they were told is that these chapters don't have a kind of dispute resolution mechanism, a kind of enforceable binding, legally binding treaty mechanism that would require either side to kind of hold the other to whatever environmental or labor standards they currently have. So if they were to bring in a new law, say India or even the UK brought in, like, say, a strikes bill, or if India, say, changed some of the labor rules in any of federally, that the other side wouldn't be able to challenge them, saying, well, this law is potentially undercutting us. Indian steel is made to, lower environmental standards than what the UK's steel industry has. So already as a kind of baseline, there's potential for Britain to be undercut there. So that's what this deal is lacking. And it's something that other trade deals brokered by other nations actually has in it. And the UK's deals with Australia and New Zealand has this mechanism. So manufacturers or food producers who are operating on considerably less regulated grounds would be free to export their produce and products into the UK to the detriment of anybody doing similar work here. Yeah, potentially. I mean, if those imports or exports are being made, yeah. I noticed that you spoke to Rosa Crawford at the TUC, who points out that suppression of trade unions, child labour and forced labour are all widespread in India. So the thing that is missing from this putative trade deal would be the thing that said if something has been made in that context, in a sector where trade union membership is suppressed, or where child labour is used, or where forced labour is utilised, you will not be allowed to send it to us. But we've got no way of checking. Yeah, I mean, the British government wouldn't be able to kind of challenge India itself, right, to prove it. on those rules. Yeah.
Why are we doing it? Is this an example of us being a little bit too desperate for a deal, which was the subtext of your coverage of the Australian deal?
I mean, I don't know. The negotiations are ongoing,
of course,
right? So we don't know if they're actually going to strike a deal. I mean, if they do, Britain might not be desperate for a deal. I'm not sure. I mean, the Prime Minister is on track, or he's scheduled to be going to India later this month with the aim of potentially striking this deal. But we don't know. I don't know. Maybe the reporting will change things.
Yes, but the idea of it, not any deal, if it does happen, will not include legally enforceable commitments on labour rights or environmental standards. And I mentioned the quality of your sourcing at the outset. 5 people who've been briefed on the text have told you this, so it's multiple sourced. So, I mean, it's going to open up a potential Pandora's box in terms of goods moving from here to elsewhere as well, isn't it? Because we wouldn't be able to export anything that had been imported into Europe, for example. I'm just sort of thinking about because in Northern Ireland this week they've started putting the labels on things saying not for sale into the European Union, haven't they? So we're going to get ever more. The more complicated these trade agreements are, the more different they are from one to the next, the more complicated everything gets in this country ultimately.
Yes, trade is a very complicated topic.
Which is why we're very grateful to you for helping us steer our way through it.
Yeah, supply chains are quite complex.
I find it oddly fascinating, and you actually feature, Graham, in my new book. So I must send you a copy when it comes out, because it's an astonishing sort of guide to the machinations and the complications of it. While politicians, of course, go in the opposite direction and pretend it's really very straightforward and something that should be celebrated. You can read that article on the Politico website by Graham Langtry under the headline "Rishi Sunak to sign UK-India trade deal without binding worker or environment pledges." And remember, everybody knew exactly what they were voting for, i.e. a trade deal with India that would completely overlook any binding environmental or worker pledges. I guess squeeze in one more call. Have I got time to squeeze in? I don't think I have. No, my apologies. Well, that's nuts. We can return to this on a later date. The switchboard's still full. It was full at 7 minutes past 11. Normally, it doesn't move until about 15:15 because you're so used to my interminable monologues. But the experiment with opening up the phone lines early, I said to you before that it never gets boring, this job, because it changes all the time. I may start doing that a little bit more often now. But it's Thursday. It's 12 noon. It's Mystery Hour, your weekly opportunity to achieve the sort of satisfaction not ordinarily available anywhere else on your radio dial. You ring in with a question. Maybe the switchboard wasn't full of people still. No, it was, yeah, crikey. But people are now ringing in. So clear the switchboard of people who are proud to be British but don't know why, and fill it instead with fascinating questions and inquiries. I've got a lovely book to recommend to you as well. As a Mystery Hour fan, Susie Dent has a book out that is almost tailor-made for our purposes, and she's going to be a guest on Full Disclosure very soon. I had the pleasure of having a look at the book already. But if you want to get involved in Mystery Hour, you know what to do.
James O'Brien on LBC.
Oh, gosh, is it that time already? Yes, it is. I hear you say. Mystery Hour is upon us. There's a prize. Did you know that? For my favourite contribution of the week? Well, the prize is a Mystery Hour board game, a wonderful Mystery Hour board game. You can find out more details at mysteryhour.co.uk. Indeed, you can buy a Mystery Hour board game. Remember, Christmas is coming. I got sent. I must say thank you to the people that sent me my Christmas pork scratchings advent calendar. There's another one this year as well. I must get the name of the company right. I'll just double check it because I got it wrong last year. There's 2 advent calendars, one with pork scratchings in each door and one with pork scratchings and a can of beer as well. That to me is Christmas. Pork scratchings and beer. That's ho, ho, ho. So anyway, that's mysteryhour.co.uk. If you want to read the terms and conditions about this competition, then you go to lbc.co.uk. That didn't sound very professional, did it? I can only apologise. Should we just crack straight on? I'm just tearing up the rules this week. Just woohoo! So I literally taking calls at 7 minutes past 11, not waiting for the end of the monologue, not even going to tell you what Mystery Hour is, not going to describe it or remind you of it. I'm just going to dive straight in and do it. Gethin's in Cardiff. Gethin, question or answer?
It's a question, please, James. Huge fan, so it's a pleasure to speak to you today.
Likewise, mate. Go on, what have you got?
My question is,
yes.
Why does food and drink taste better, or why do we think it tastes better when somebody else has prepared it? Now, I was speaking to your producers, and I'm wondering if it's because your taste buds are already exposed.
Because of the smells while cooking.
Exactly, and the reason I think that is because, say now I'm batch cooking on a Sunday evening and eat that meal on the Sunday, it never tastes as good as the following day or the day after.
Never tastes as good. So, that can be marinated. That might be for different reasons. That's very true. That's very true. Although is a cup of tea marinated? No, this is true. So, I mean, first of all, are we confident that everyone is going to recognise the premise of your question, Gethin? Is everyone going to go, God, he's right? Yeah, it's always much nicer when someone else cooks it. I do Christmas dinner. And I'm always slightly disappointed. Everyone else is sitting around the table singing my praises, and I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it as much as I was expected to, because I don't know why. I almost feel a bit full before I sit down, even though I haven't eaten anything. Could be
that. Yeah. And like I say, even if you're not trying it as you're cooking, it still has the same effect, at least for me.
I think, me too. I mean, let's find out. I mean, if it is possible to find out. So we're agreeing on the premise, are we? Do you find food is nicer when other people? I'm just checking with my crack team of operatives. Do you find food is nicer when other people? Yeah, we're all fairly in broad agreement on this. And then the question becomes why. I like it. What were you batch cooking on Sunday? What were you doing?
Oh, good question. What did I do on Sunday? Oh, it was a pad thai.
Really?
So Asian food's my favourite.
You batch cook that? Do the noodles? Yeah, of course they stay all right.
No, apart from the noodles. So I always do the noodles fresh on the day after. But the sauce.
I get you, eh? Very nice. 6 minutes after 12 is the time. Why does it taste? Now, why would Gethin's pad thai taste even nicer? 6 minutes after 12. What did I say? 9. So the microphone went weird. Why would Gethin's pad thai taste even nicer if someone else had cooked it? 0345 6060 973. Sam's in Brașov in Romania. Sam, question or answer?
Hi, James. Question.
Carry on.
So I'm with you with the Christmas dinner, by the way. When you've cooked it, it's not the same.
It's weird, right?
But, yeah.
There we go.
So, Anyway, my question. This came up, you spoke to... Ros Atkins 2 or 3 weeks back about his new book.
That's right, very good.
Have you got a new book coming up?
I don't like to talk about it, but I've got a book called How They Broke Britain that's out on November the 2nd, actually, Sam. Unfortunately, the book tour itself is now sold out in several cities, but there are some events at the Henley Literary Festival, the Cheltenham Literary Festival, and I've got a couple of events with Toppings Bookshop up in Scotland, and I'll also be at the Hay-on-Wye Winter Festival. How kind of you to ask.
You're not coming to Brașov. I'm
not coming to. Well, is there a literary festival in Brașov?
There's a Transylvania Literary Festival. I'll send you a tweet later.
So let me know. I don't know if it's that kind of book, but you never know your luck. So actually, there are some people in it. Nigel Farage gets his own chapter, so that would fit right in Transylvania. But anyway, where were we?
Anyway, so October the 2nd, you said. What day is that?
You know full well, November the 2nd. It is,
November.
And it's a Thursday. But it is a Thursday. Yeah,
it is a Thursday. So I have, and you interviewed Ros Atkins.
I did.
His book was out on a Thursday,
yeah.
And I have lots of books all lined up, ready to come out on Thursdays.
Yeah, that's right. So I know what your question is going to be.
Is there a reason why? Was there a reason why Thursday was the book they were published?
Yeah.
Is it just tradition now, or is there still a valid reason?
I think it's because of the charts.
Oh, okay.
I think that Wednesday night is when you find out if you've made the Sunday Times top 10 bestsellers. So that would be 7 days, wouldn't it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And that, so you get the full 7 days to maximise sales in the hope of getting
in the first week,
getting yourself into the chart. I think that's the reason. Qualifications. Ask me what my qualifications are, Sam.
Go on then, James. What are your qualifications?
Best-selling author, mate. Sunday Times best-selling author. Sunday Times best-selling author. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would make sense because I remember when I was growing up and we only had one. We had one cinema in town with one screen. it was always Thursday when the new films came out as well.
So same reason to get it, so to maximise the chance of getting to the top of the charts. And a round of applause for me. Thank you, Sam. And thank you very much for the opportunity of allowing me to break with convention and plug my own volume. Mandy's in Crawley. Mandy, question or answer?
It's a question, James.
Carry on.
Okay, a bit of background to this.
Yes.
This came to mind yesterday evening.
Right.
I went into our back garden and found that a snail was sliding up our back door.
Slithering,
yeah, it's probably a better word, isn't it?
Right.
And my husband picked it up, took it off the door and lobbed it down the garden.
Interesting.
And as I was watching it spiralling around, I wondered, do snails get dizzy?
What a snail gets it? So you mean like a form of what we would get if we were spinning around quickly?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because it would not happen naturally to a snail. In the same, a snail, for rather obvious reasons, a snail couldn't decide to spin round quickly in the way that a human can.
Absolutely.
So who would know the answer to the question of whether it would depend on their nervous system, would it? What causes dizziness, and would it apply to a snail? It's not the most obviously answerable question we've ever had on the programme.
Okay.
But that's a good thing. I mean, I like questions that aren't obviously answered, but I'm just trying to think who might know. Right, I'll find out. Did it come back? Did the snail come back?
No, I think he threw it far away enough.
And did he put a bit of spin on
morning.
it? Did he put like a little? I thought he might have done a little bit of top spin, get it right over into the neighbours. Did it go over? Did it clear the fence? Did it land in the neighbour's garden?
I'm not going to answer that.
That's a yes. Okay, we shall find out, Mandy, whether or not snails get dizzy, or we won't. Who knows? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. It's 11 minutes after 12, and the company I need to thank for my advent calendars is the Snaffling Pig Company. I called it the Snuffling Pig, I think, last time I thanked, but I can heartily recommend their pork scratchings. They are delicious. I'll tell you what else is really nice. And I must thank Galaxy as well, because I mentioned to you how much I was enjoying Galaxy biscuits. Your Galaxy digestives, like a chocolate biscuit, but with Galaxy chocolate on top. And they sent us a bunch of packets of it. So thank you for that. I think you were off, Keith. I shared them with everyone else. Seriously, News Desk had some, Online had a packet, gave a packet to the producer's desk, Weekend Team. I dished them right. I only took one packet home. I dished them right out because I was worried about, the old waistline. But Snaffling Pig Company. But I tell you what else is delicious. I don't know if you've come across this yet. You know Terry's Chocolate Orange? They do a mint one. And that is special. I like to try all the new things when they invent them. I like all the ice lollies. I'll tell you what else is delicious. You remember Refresher Sweets? The bright yellow Refresher Sweets. They're absolutely gorgeous. One of my all-time favourite sweets. They do a lolly now. There's an ice lolly. A Refresher Sweets ice lolly, available in Morrison's and all good supermarkets. So those are my recommendations of the day. 12 minutes after 12 is the time. Why does food taste better when someone else has cooked it? And do snails get dizzy? Catherine's in Hemel Hempstead. Catherine, question or answer?
Oh, hello. It's a question, please.
Carry on.
What happens at the borders of countries that drive on different sides of the road?
Can we think of such a border?
Between Thailand and Vietnam and Afghanistan and Pakistan I've got so far, but my geography is appalling.
No, that's I wouldn't have known that. I've got Thailand and Vietnam. I don't know. I mean, would it be? I mean, if you've got to go through a border post, it would be quite straightforward, wouldn't it? Or
but
not?
What if there are no border posts?
Well, I don't know.
Then you're in a pickle.
You are in a pickle. I mean, we're an island, so it doesn't count, does it? Because you're always going to get on the boat.
And then they remind you when you get off the boat or off the Eurostar.
They do. But what we want I saw a bridge once, Catherine, that it may be what you're describing. It was the most astonishing piece of engineering. And I think that it did what you describe. I think that you drove onto either end of the bridge, and it somehow managed to put you when you drove off the bridge, you were driving on the other side of the road to when you drove onto it.
Well, that makes sense. If it's a single track going to the other side, and then by the time you get off it merges you the other way round.
Yeah, I think it was round. It was almost like a figure of 8. of some sort of so one going under and one going over, like a mini spaghetti junction, depositing cars driving on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, and cars driving towards it on the left-hand side, coming out of it.
Clever.
Oh, it is really. I wish I could show it to you.
So that's one big road. What if it's kind of, the small little country bumpkin roads?
Oh, you're a bit picky, aren't you? I want to know
that
trying to give you one example.
Get into trouble.
No. No, I see. So like a little back road. If for example, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland diverged, then there'd be all sorts of crossing points. Well, I'll try and find out for you, but I guess what we'll get is someone who's got quite a lot of knowledge of one specific example, rather than a full gamut of all borders where this applies. I love it. What prompts the question, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm a really bad driver, and I came off of the Eurotunnel and I drove on the wrong side of the road.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're a really bad driver.
Well, no, I really am as well.
Well, so am I. So you're in good company. There's no, nothing to be ashamed of. Although I've never done that. I've never managed to drive on the wrong side of the road. 12:15 is the time. So we've got the question about driving on the left hand and the right hand. What happens when you reach the border between two countries where they drive on different sides of the road? Do snails get busy? And why does food taste nicer? Why is food not as enjoyable when you cook it yourself?
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 18 minutes after 12. We may have a problem. I don't think that Thailand shares a border with Vietnam. Max texted in to say that, and Keith has checked. Quite a few people making that point. So Catherine wasn't kidding when she said she was a bad driver. She's managed to traverse a non-existent border. But the question stands: what happens when countries that have where you drive on different sides of the road with a land border? And someone surely is going to send me a picture of that magnificent bridge that I mentioned. Otherwise, there's a very distinct possibility I might have dreamt the whole thing. I do dream of bridges. I get quite moved by bridges and cranes. It's all gone a bit partridge, hasn't it? I probably shouldn't have mentioned the mint chocolate oranges either. Also, what do you call a mint chocolate orange? What's it called? Because it's shaped like an orange. That's why it's called a chocolate orange, but it tastes of orange. But we can't call it mint balls, Keith. It's chocolate orange, but it's mint flavoured, not orange flavoured. So what's it called? A Terry's chocolate mint, but that doesn't have any shape. Oh, it's a complicated time to be alive, isn't it? Mike's in Marlow. Mike, question or answer?
Yeah, good morning, James.
Hello, Mike.
When you get a storm, there's Agnes, is it, the one we've just had?
I believe
so. I think so, but whipping up all that seawater into a storm, and then it all comes inland and it all dumps itself all over Britain. It comes down as fresh water.
Does it?
Where does the salt go?
Hang on a minute. What do you mean it? So what? The sea doesn't go into the sky, does it?
Of course it does.
What do you mean? Of course it does.
Well, in a storm, it all gets whipped up, doesn't it? And evaporation and
well,
everything
if it
else
evaporates, if it evaporates, the salt stays behind.
How?
What are you laughing
it's
at me?
Salty water.
Yes, but salt doesn't. When you boil salt water, the salt stays behind. Did you not do chemistry at school? This is like the first experiment ever. Mike, I swear.
I'm not having that.
Are you winding me up?
That.
Are you winding?
No.
So you get go and do it. You can literally do it now. You go put a pan of water on the stove,
right,
and put in a significant amount of salt. Turn it on and phone me back before 1 o'clock.
And are you telling me that steam that comes off doesn't contain any salt?
I am categorically telling you that steam coming off doesn't contain any salt. Yes.
I'm not having that.
Will you do? How do you think? All right. Let's think of it the other way around. How do you think they make salt?
That by boiling the water away, or evaporating the water. But are you telling me that all that turmoil across the Atlantic that ends up dumping itself all over Manchester and everywhere else in Northern Ireland hasn't got an element of salt in it?
I'm not telling you that because I don't know. That's why I said, are you sure that are you sure? What do you mean, ha-ha? That's like the opposite of a gotcha. That's like the sea might, I don't know, meteorologically speaking, whether or not a sort of typhoon or something sucks seawater into the air. It's highly unlikely that it then deposits it because it couldn't turn into a cloud. If it turned into a cloud, all the salt would fall out of the sky. I can't believe you're laughing, because this is mad. This is one of the maddest questions. Are you going to do the experiment for me, Mike?
Good.
No, go and do. Are you at home at the moment? Are you at home?
No, I'm not. I'm at work. I'm on a building site.
I swear to you that if you put a pan of salt water on the stove and go away, when you come back, there will be no water and lots of salt.
Yeah, I get that, but that's boiling. I understand that.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to boil. I mean, that's just you're speeding it up. The process of evaporation from the sea is I mean, that's it. That's.
Well, when a storm gets whipped into those.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to put. But I don't know that a storm gets whipped into the rain cloud. But I'll put it on the board, Mike. I'm
not happy with your answer.
Well,
mate.
I can't believe you're not happy with my answer. But I mean, it's possible that there's a very specific meteorological process that you're describing, but it couldn't become a cloud. You see, if it was salt water, because the minute it evaporates, the minute water becomes steam or vapor, the salt is left behind. And so, I mean, maybe someone can answer your question more satisfactorily than I can. There'll be salt in the air, I guess, tiny little particles. It's why cars rust more near the sea than they do around. So maybe that might be part of the answer. I like it, Mike. Take care. 23 minutes after 12 is the time. David is in Cambridge. David, question or answer?
It's a question, please, James.
Carry on.
So, in children's books and in comic books, when a character is sleeping and they're snoring, you see it written down as that several Zs, that Z kind of written down.
Yeah.
What is the origin of that? Why is it Z? Now, I understand, obviously, that you can't exactly read the snoring sound, which I won't do on the air right now, but how did it come from Z as snoring, essentially?
Is it not the exhale?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've never recorded myself as snoring going, hearing Zs when I breathe out in snoring. I don't know.
So you breathe. So you're thinking of the inhale, which is a like that.
Yeah.
But the Zs in the Beano are the X. So it would be. No.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm seeing. Is every person different with, do they exhale, like blowing out?
Why Zs? What else could it be?
Zs?
What else could it be?
I don't, that's what I'd like to know. That's part of the question. How was it decided that Z was the way?
Okay.
Was it just
who did it first? I mean, it'd probably be DC Thompson. It'd be one of the early comic artists or something like that. I can't see, because that's where it first appeared, isn't it? I don't know. Whether would it appear in literature or in song? I can't think of anything. I mean, we talk about Zs, but what came first? It's chicken and egg now. When you talk about having Zs or having a snooze, Zs, getting some Zs. Well, it's a nice question, actually, David. Well done.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's what I've written down on my notes. I just wrote zzz, so I know what that question is. And there's David's name, 25 after 12. Paul's in Tiverton. Paul, question or answer?
It's an answer, James.
Carry on.
The driving on the left versus driving on the right and what happens at borders.
Yes.
Until 1972, in Sweden, they drove on the left.
Right.
In Norway, they drove on the right.
Okay, perfect.
So there's a lot of country roads between those countries. Country roads between those two countries.
Yes.
And the border. The reason I know is because, one reason I know is because I watched a film called Kitchen Stories, a Swedish film called Kitchen Stories, which I thoroughly recommend. Brilliant film.
Yes.
And it was about a travelling salesman.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a scene at the border. He was in Sweden, and he was travelling and doing his work in Norway, selling his goods, doing some market research, actually.
Yeah.
And there was a scene at the border. And what they did is they simply had a border marking saying, "Welcome to Norway," whatever. And they simply have a permanent barrier across half of the road.
Right.
So that if you're approaching from Sweden, you're driving on the left.
Yeah.
And there's this barrier in front of you.
Yeah.
And it says, "Welcome to Norway," now you drive on the right. And you just go around the barrier, and that puts you on the right-hand side of the road, and you stay there. And
so it's not a dual, so it's not a two, it's not, there's not, yeah, okay. That makes
so
sense.
if you're coming from the other direction, that same barrier is on your right. So it's still in front of you as you approach it. And you cross over onto the left, and you carry on the left.
Perfect.
So that's what they did between Sweden and Norway.
That's a good answer, and it gets you a round of applause. But I have been sent, I can add to that, it is called the Lotus Bridge between China and... How do you pronounce that word, Paul? Is it Macau? Is it Macau?
Me? You're asking me?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, you're the only person here.
About the Lotus Bridge.
I can't ask anyone else. The Lotus Bridge between China and Macau is the one that like redirects you from one lane to the other as you cross it.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, your caller, your questioner was asking about what happens on little country lanes.
Yes, I know. I'm not. You're getting a round of applause, mate. I'm just bringing the bridge into the conversation because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, now if you've got like steady flow of loads of traffic, then of course you've got to do something else.
Yeah,
you've got to have
exactly.
I don't know how it's done.
So there's different. So there's the qualifications. You watched the film.
I watched the film. Yeah, brilliant film. Kitchen Stories.
Oh, well, I'll jot that down. And you get a nice round of applause, the first of the day. Well played. Lovely stuff. So, Catherine, there are various answers, as I suggested that there would be, but Paul has provided you with a concrete example, albeit of a border that no longer exists. And the Lotus Bridge between China and Macau, I've been sent several photographs of it now. It's a really beautiful bridge. So imagine a backwards capital B from above, and then 2 lanes. And one of them goes under... well, just look at it. Look it up, seriously. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Ross is in Bridgewater in Somerset. Ross, question or answer?
I had an answer.
What happened?
You just answered it.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. What, the bridge?
It was, yes.
Where is it? Have you been there? Have you been there?
I have been there, yeah.
To talk me through it. Have you been over it? Have you been over it?
I have been over it, yeah.
How exciting. What was it like?
Yeah, it's kind of it's pretty interesting bit of engineering. I used to go to Hong Kong and China quite a bit for work, so I'd be driven over it a fair number of times, and it would often get the experience of just looking at it rather than trying to avoid any obstacles.
How does it? How does it? I mean, I think I had something a bit similar on my Scale X trick when I was a child.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of like the figure of 8 Scale X trick.
Yeah, and it would change lanes, wouldn't it, for the second half of the track? And
exactly. Yeah.
Which is why you had to have different coloured cars.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to know who's won, I suppose.
Well, precisely. I'm going to give you a round of applause. I feel I stole your thunder very unfairly.
No problem, that happens a lot.
Same here. Round of applause for Ross, please. Mad that. I love it. Crikey, it's that time already. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Questions still in need of answers. Mike's question about clouds, water, weather, rain, evaporation, basic science. David's question about Zeds. Why do cartoon people sleeping have Zeds coming out of their mouth? We've done Catherine's question. Mandy's question about whether or not snails can get dizzy, I think is unlikely to be. I suppose you could just say no and then explain why. Of course they don't get dizzy. And why does food not taste quite as nice when you've cooked it yourself? And both Gethin and I have personal experience of that phenomenon, so you are not allowed to challenge it. Amelia Cox is here now with your headlines.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 25 minutes to 1, and it's all gone a bit bridge-based, this week's mystery. Thanks to Emily, who, amazingly, it's almost an unbelievable coincidence, is currently making a large batch of pork scratchings. But she tells me about the Snake Bridge in Macclesfield, which I was already aware of, actually. I haven't visited it, but I've seen photographs. It's a canal-side bridge, which allows a tow horse to swap sides of the canal without untethering them from the boat. I don't know why I find bridges so mesmeric, but bridges that sort of do more than the normal bridge are even more mesmeric than bridges that just do normal bridge-based services. The aqueducts are fascinating as well, aren't they? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Emily. That is well worth people looking up if they share my bridge enthusiasms. I'm not even pretending anymore. I'm basically Alan Partridge. That's fine. And those chocolate things, it's just called a Terry's Chocolate Mint. They've completely given up on any attempt to bring the spherical nature of the chocolate into the description. So, you know a Terry's Chocolate Orange, yeah? Yeah, they've done a mint one. It's called a Terry's Chocolate Mint. It's just a chocolate mint, even though it's shaped like an orange. I feel they've dropped the ball there. So they could have called it that. But anyway, on we go. Hal's in Brighton. Professor Hal is in Brighton. Question or answer?
Hello, James.
Hello,
it was the evaporation question.
Yeah. It was a bit of an odd one, that, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know if it merits bandwidth on Mystery Hour, because as you've wisely pointed out, it is sort of GCSE chemistry.
But he laughed. Anyway. But he laughed at me.
Well, joke's on him.
Well, he certainly is. So, well, I mean, are there no circumstances in which salt? Because sometimes, Saharan sand gets caught up in the atmosphere, doesn't it? So salt could perhaps as well.
It's vanishingly small. The reality is, as you've wisely pointed out, when the sun or the wind picks up the water effectively evaporates, it rises until it reaches a temperature at which it recondenses and it rains down. That's the whole basis of the water cycle. So every time we go to the toilet, that goes into the sewer, the sun evaporates it off and it just goes in a big old cycle. The salt stays where it is. The boiling point of sodium chloride is, I think, 2,000 degrees, give or take. So it's never, ever going to evaporate up. And even if it sort of whips up into the air, it'll just fall back down again. So, I mean, there's lots of evidence. I mean, black T-shirts, you get those sort of salt streaks on them, don't you? Because the sweat evaporates and so forth. Yes. And I'm sure you remember making copper sulfate crystals at school. So it's the basis of evaporation.
I mean, those are the only two experiments anyone can really remember, making copper sulfate crystals and boiling up salt water to get salt left in the crucible.
That's exactly. I mean, as you've always pointed out, the salt flats is where they make salt. That expensive salt you buy in Waitrose or whatever.
Malden.
Yeah, exactly. Those big crystals. You get that by putting salt.
We did it on holiday, Hal. We did it in Greece. We brought our own home.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, bringing 2 kilos of white crystals through customs at Kalamata Airport was quite exciting, but they're obviously very easy to prove that it was salt. Qualifications?
I'm delighted to say I'm Professor of Public Understanding at the University of Brighton for the time being.
For the time being.
1 month to go.
We'll be there. Well, thank you, mate. Always a pleasure. And have another round. We'll squeeze in a couple more before doomsday.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. Thank you, Hal. Look after yourself. 12:38 is the time. Gonzalo is in Southend-on-Sea. Gonzalo, question or answer?
Question.
Carry on.
Why does my mouth is drier when I drink more water than the days that I don't drink as much water? It feels like much more hydrated.
Really?
Yes.
So when you drink a lot of water,
my mouth becomes
your mouth is drier.
Yes.
Is it going to be the thing? Have you got the? Is it? Will it be? Have you got it? Have you got it? Could it possibly be osmosis?
But wait. But then, if I am drinking more water, then basically, shouldn't my mouth will be like more?
You'd think so.
Hydrated?
Yeah, you'd think so. Well, I'll find out for you. I like it. You don't know why I just did that, do you?
The osmosis.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because like water will pass through the membrane.
No. Why you heard that Hosanna in the background? Hallelujah in the background.
Oh, no, a long time that you don't use the osmosis.
Yeah. I mean, that was there. It was a very, very early gimmick, long before Woke Watch and Dory's Watch and the rest of it. That was possibly the very first one, because whenever I didn't know the answer to a science question, I would say that word and quite often be correct, but I doubt that I am on this occasion. Thank you, Gonzalo. Why when you've drunk a lot of water, does your mouth feel drier than it does when you haven't drunk any water at all? Whew. Tim's in Washington. Tyne on Weir. Question or answer?
It's a question, James.
Carry on, man.
Right. Usually I have to listen to this program on the podcast version, and when I do,
yes,
I get the adverts. And one of the adverts I heard a couple of weeks ago, a few times, was for WhatsApp, the messaging app.
Was it?
So it was. Yeah. So it just got us thinking.
Right.
It's a free app. They pay to advertise it. They pay to develop it and innovate it. So what do they get out of it? How do they monetize it?
It's a good question, I think. I don't know. No, I mean, you're on. Let's do it. Let's get it. How does WhatsApp make money? If indeed it does. I mean, is it part of Facebook? Which is it? Yeah, it's linked to Facebook. Maybe it. So it's all Meta, isn't it? I mean, literally, it's the name of the company. So, so how does WhatsApp make money? If indeed it does, I'll try and find out for you, Tim. It's a good question. Thank you, mate. Mind how you go. Steve is, should I say, also in Northumberland? Would I be showing off my ignorance of English geography? I don't know. But Steve is in Northumberland, which is quite vague. You didn't chop that tree down, I hope.
No, that wasn't me, no.
Oh, well, yeah, you would see. Wouldn't exactly own up to it now, would you, mate? Phantom tree chopper, the sycamore. Question or answer? Question or answer, Steve?
Well, I have a question, James, and it's a one that's puzzled me for many years. And it's imagine you're sitting at a restaurant,
okay,
or you've enjoyed a lovely meal,
right?
You're absolutely stuffed.
Yeah, got it.
You can't get another pea in your mouth.
Not even a wafer thin mint.
Yeah, you know, there's food left on your plate. You can't eat another thing. Yet you can quaff a pint of beer. What's all that about?
Okay, so you've got no more room for solid food, but you're going to be fine with liquid.
Yeah, you can stick a pint down your neck, no problem. I've done it myself.
I have too.
I'm sure, mate. Yeah. How does that work? And
I don't know. You would have thought. I mean, is it the weight of the food? I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah, well, I've quite often thought that maybe the liquid sort of runs between the
cracks, like the cement, like the cement in our guts, and the food is the bricks, and so we're full of bricks. But if we could still, that might be it. That could fill. That's actually probably quite a good. I don't know. I shall find out for you. So you've had a slap-up feed. You've had a slap-up feed with all the trimmings. You can't force down a wafer thin mint, but you can easily make short work of a pint of ale.
Yeah, that's it. As usual, you captured it in a nutshell.
That's what I'm here for, Steve. That's what I'm here for. It's 12:43. Alistair is in Orpington. Alistair, question or answer?
Hi, James.
Hello.
Good show. It's
Thank you.
a steward's inquiry.
What?
It's a steward's inquiry on the question regarding salt and evaporation and the sea and everything.
Crikey, go on.
Okay. What happens is that you get spray over the sea. Most of that goes down again, but some of it goes up higher, comes into very small particles, and each very small particle of water actually has a very very small piece of salt in it. When this evaporates, you still get these very small particles of salt high up above sea. Later on in the cycle, these form the nucleus for raindrops to form. Now, we're talking fractional, very, very small bits, and by the time a raindrop's big enough to fall at the atmosphere, it's a millimetre or more across, so they aren't actually very salty, but there is some salt there.
What, in every raindrop?
Not in every raindrop. No. If you're over land, you get very fine sand particles or vegetation particles.
So every raindrop needs a solid nucleus?
Pretty much, yes.
Well, I never. I mean, absolutely minuscule, infinitesimally small, but something a bit like a pearl in an oyster. It has to start somewhere. It has to go build on something.
That's the current theories on it. I mean, nobody's been ever up there.
That's the paradigm. What are your qualifications?
About 50 years back, I did a PhD on rainfall and radar, and it involves knowing a bit about raindrops.
That'll do. Do they keep falling on your head?
Only if I go out in the rain.
Round of applause for Alistair. I think it was an enhancement necessary. Well, I don't know, actually. I mean, I don't want to rain on Hell's Parade, if you pardon the pun, but I liked that. It is 12:45.
James O'Brien on LBC. James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 12:48. You are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Question still in need of answers. Why does food not taste as nice when you've cooked it yourself? Can snails get dizzy? We've done that one. Why do cartoonists use Zs to denote sleeping? Why does your mouth feel drier when you've drunk a lot of water? How does WhatsApp make money? And similar to the water question, another water question, how come you can neck a pint of liquid when you couldn't face another morsel of food? It just doesn't make sense. Either you're full or you're not full. But if it's a pint, it doesn't have to be ale. It could just be water. Chris is in Dartford. Question or answer?
Good afternoon, James. There's a question, please.
Carry on.
Why is a Mr. Whippy 99 called a 99?
Nobody knows.
I think there's got to be an answer, because I've been to France and Germany, and they have the same thing as well. So it's got to be named after something.
Well, I mean, it's a flake. It's the size of the flake is the best available theory. Half a flake is called a flake 99.
Really?
Yeah, in the 20s.
Okay, I'll go with that, because you're quite a knowledgeable person.
No, I'm not. I promise I'm not. Well, I am, but not on this occasion. It's come up before. It's a bit of a hardy perennial. We haven't done it for years, but no one is 100% sure.
All right. Okay. Oh, well, I'll go with that then. You know what? I'll trust you on this occasion.
Thanks, mate. I'll take the round of applause, but I won't take the game. Sharon's in High Wycombe. Sharon, question or answer?
Answer, I hope.
Carry on.
So, it's to do with the does food not taste quite so nice when
yes. Yeah, good.
So, I believe so lots of people would say, okay, taste is linked to smell.
Right.
But when your cells in your nose pick up, sort of detect the stimulus of the chemicals, that then goes along your neurons to your brain, and in between there are synapses.
Yeah.
What happens is that between the synapses there are little vesicles that contain something called a neurotransmitter.
Right.
And eventually, if you're surrounded by this smell, the brain is telling it. So the vesicles run out.
Oh.
So you become habituated. So I'm going to say something to you now.
Good.
But you'll recognise this. So before I said this, you will not probably have been thinking about the feeling of your clothes on your skin.
No.
And do you feel them now?
Yeah.
That's because you become habituated it. So it's like a protective.
Got it.
Protective mechanism.
Got it.
So that's what I believe is the answer.
That's a brilliant answer. Qualifications?
Retired biology teacher.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. Beautifully done. So it is the fact that you're smelling it is I mean, it's not that your brain's not thinking that you're full.
Oh no! It's just the fact that you have the chemicals are detected by the sensory cells in your nose. That gets.
So your appetite's not the same then, because you've become habituated to the lovely smells.
I don't think so. I agree. You don't always feel as full when you cooked it yourself.
No.
I need to get my husband to cook more for me.
Yes, it's a lovely answer, and it's earned you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Lovely stuff. I've got some sad news for you, actually. Sir Michael Gambon has died at the age of 82. His family have announced a astonishing career. I mean, one of those titans of British stage and screen, which is a phrase that really does him justice. Younger viewers, of course, will know him best as the second Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films after Richard Harris passed away. People my age probably watched him in the Dennis Potter. He was incredible in that, wasn't he? He was so incredible. I can't remember what it was called. The Singing Detective. Yeah, that was incredible. I remember watching that. But he was in loads and announced just in the last hour or so that he has passed away at the age of 82. 12:53 is the time. Simon is in Beckenham. Simon, question or answer?
Answer.
Carry on.
It's about the snails. Do they get dizzy?
Do snails get dizzy? Yes.
Right. So obviously not. So the reason we get dizzy, this is because we have like little canals in our inner ear with fluid in.
Yeah.
And when we tilt our head, this triggers probably synapses or something on either end, and this is how we feel dizzy.
So if you haven't got the little canals in your ears, then you can't get dizzy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming snails don't have human ears.
I'm assuming snails don't have human ears either. In fact, I would go so far as I could prove to you that snails don't get dizzy.
How would you do that?
Have you ever seen one fall over?
I've seen one fly through the sky spinning.
Crikey, I think I know who threw it. It was Mandy's husband. No, you've never seen a snail fall over, so therefore they can't. Qualifications?
A-level biology.
Yeah, whatever.
Same age as you, actually. So it's
a while ago, then. Served you well. Thank you, Simon. Bill's in Brighton. Bill, question or answer?
I've got an answer, James.
Carry on.
99 ice cream.
It's not true, whatever you're about to say.
Right.
It's an urban myth, mate. Which one is it going to be? It's something to do with the racehorse or Italian soldiers?
Shall I hang up now?
No, I want to hear it, and then I'm going to laugh. Italian soldiers. What's the story?
Oh, Regiment 99, and when the Italian migrants came over to England, they wanted to name their ice cream after something good.
Yeah.
And there was a 99th Regiment, and they were good at something, and there you go.
It was called the Boys of 99. Ragazzi del 99. or something like that. It could be true, but so could the thing about the flake. No one knows. It is actually. I can give you a round of applause because it is a.
No.
I can. It's a plausible answer. It's on. It's part of the canon of answers to this question. But the bottom line is nobody actually knows.
Fair play.
Nobody actually knows. There's another one that it was. It was the first person who stuck a flake in an ice cream. His ice cream shop was number 99 on a road. That's another one, I think, somewhere in Scotland. But anyway, you can have a round of applause, Bill, because you've added to the colour of it. There you go. Bless you too. 12:55 is the time. Venki is in Croydon. Venki, question or answer?
Answer, please.
Carry on.
First of all, thank you very much for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Big fan of your show. Looking forward to the book.
Thank you.
The answer is to the WhatsApp question, yes. I hope. So WhatsApp is essentially following the model of another app in China called WeChat.
Okay.
And this is because WhatsApp is banned in China. WeChat essentially has a business directory where they have business users, so for example, plumber, clothes shop, tradesmen, doctors, whoever else it is. They come and advertise their sort of wares, quote unquote, on WeChat, and then consumers essentially subscribe to it, and consumers can get those services provided to them. Now, WhatsApp does something similar in India. Right. Yes. They do something similar in India where essentially banks will have business accounts. And,
I think we've just opened one, actually. LBC's just opened a WhatsApp account. But I don't know. I don't know that we pay for it. I don't think we pay for it. I'm not sure.
Not sure either. I haven't seen it in the UK, but I have definitely seen it in India.
So it's a work in progress, isn't it?
It is a work in progress. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase their consumer base, well, for obvious reasons.
Data.
And they've exactly that. Yeah. And they've taken it from, essentially the idea has been taken from WeChat, which has got some of the highest ARPU, as they call it in the industry lingo, which is average return per user.
Oh, okay. Oh, that is interesting. Qualifications?
I used to work but I used to work with WeChat around sort of 2014, 2015 timeframe.
Oh, that'll do. A big round of applause for Venki, please.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a great answer. Very, very knowledgeable. Thank you. Patrick's in Reading. Patrick, question or answer?
Answer.
Carry on.
It's just to add on the WhatsApp answer you got. So Facebook at the time bought WhatsApp primarily for everyone's phone numbers.
Of course, the data. So they're making money with it, but not through it.
So you're able to marry your kind of fluid data sets that are on Facebook. So, likes, you dislikes, the products you buy and you talk about, and your political leanings, etc., to your static data set, which is your phone number, and that makes it much more valuable to companies, political parties as well.
Potentially, I forget precisely where the legality is, but most of us have signed up for stuff.
You can't use it. In America, you can.
In America, you can. And I mean, still a huge sort of multi-$100 million fine for data mining as well. Yep. It's still very largely not known how widespread it was here. Luckily, there's a book coming out on November the 2nd that goes into it in quite a lot of detail in the Dominic Cummings chapter.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I know. Round of applause. Qualifications? Qualifications?
I've worked in data for 10 years.
Round of applause for Patrick, please. I'm tempted to give the board game to Mike in Marlow. I just thought that was the most enjoyable. It was the contribution I enjoyed the most, not necessarily for the right reasons, but yes. If you missed any of today's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, where you can also rewind live radio. You'll also find all of LBC's shows there to catch up on, as well as the world's biggest podcasts. Rewind live radio on Global Player. Download for free from your app store or head to globalplayer.com. Coming up at 4 on LBC, it's Tom Swarbrick, but now it's time for Sheila Fogarty.
James O'Brien on LBC.